Did y'all do the things I signed over the week? Not too bad, right? Lab seems pretty easy to navigate and everything. Let's see. Somebody was trying to get in earlier. That, okay. What have I done? Okay. There we go. And just gonna get blanks. We're not going to go so in depth and in detail today. We're just kind of going to go through a video and go through some questions, and we might work ahead a little bit. We'll see. All right. Yeah, so let me go ahead and. Well, you know what I think happened? I think Zoom updated on a Monday morning. Why wouldn't they do it on a Sunday? That would make so much more sense. Especially with what the current situation. If they updated Zoom on a Monday morning in normal circumstances, that makes sense. But doing it on a Monday morning with everything going on doesn't seem like the best idea. All right, we got one person in. I'm gonna give it just a few minutes if that's cool with y'all. I'll kind of we just take a chill break and wait for a few. Usually we have like 4 or 5 people in here, so I'll just wait. I don't want to get going until that happens. I should be recording. I am. So awesome. And we will just get right spot. Pause. All right, yep. We'll just wait a minute or two. Because usually we should have more people. Anybody? Are y'all okay with how the class is like running? Like, is everything going well? You think? Like, is there anything I can improve on? I'm trying to just assign it in the morning. I'm not doing it like at the time. I'm just doing it in the morning, which doesn't mean you have to do it then. I'm just giving you the whole day, like whenever you get to it. And I'm pretty sure I told y'all, and I guess Adam's the only one on there. But if you're watching on YouTube, again, if for some reason you can't get on during the school day, that's fine. You're going to be marked absent probably like until the next morning, if because I can't check on it until the next morning, and I'm not going to be on campus until midnight. I think that's understandable. So the next morning, I'll just change you from absent to present, obviously. So just be understanding. Don't email me or get a family member to email me and get mad at me because I counted you absent because you got on at like 7. So just bear with me. All right, well, I think that's enough time to wait. Let's see if anybody wants to get in. Yeah, I think at this point, we're basically done. Okay, so today, if you look at the announcements, we are going to go through here real quick. I don't know if Adam, if you can see that, but I'm assuming you've done the canvas. Please complete the following section: Lab Sim 1.3.3. Use window interface. If you did not finish that on Friday, then we're going to go over the interface facts, and then we're going to do some questions. We might in class here today get a little bit farther. This is a 7-minute video. That's a little bit shorter than I thought it would be. So we'll do that. We'll do this part. I'm going to give y'all time to go to the computers, and I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to work on these questions. And then we might kind of just view the Linux basics and kind of maybe watch this video. How long is this video? That's not too bad. We might end it on that today. We'll see. So I might just assign a lot more for people on Tuesday who are online, and y'all will slow down a little bit towards the end of the week. I'd rather just go kind of faster in class. And if you're following along online, watching us online, then that's fine too. We'll get to a more steady kind of way we're doing things here soon, but I'm having a hard time kind of planning out, when to do what. So, all right, so let's go ahead and watch this video. That's what we'll start on. I'll go from there.
In this demonstration, we're going to take a look at the Windows 10 user interface. Windows 10 has a lot of the features that customers like from earlier versions of Windows and combine them to make an interface that most users like better. On Windows 10, if I click the Windows icon down here, it brings up a start menu where we see a miniaturized version of my start screen. Notice that I have two different types of app tiles. We have the standard app tile, whose display is static. We also have the live tiles, whose display is not static. It's dynamically updated with new information. For example, the Microsoft Store app right here has no information currently displayed. Neither does the Microsoft Edge app. However, my weather app does have information displayed on it. It's constantly being updated with new information for the current weather conditions in my location. To start a Windows 10 app, all I have to do is click it from the Start menu, and the app is loaded. You'll notice that in Windows 10, there are a lot of controls that we use with standard desktop apps, like the close, maximize, and minimize buttons. If we come back here to the Start menu, you'll notice that only a subset of the apps and the applications installed on the system are displayed on the right side of the Start menu. If we want to see all of the apps installed on the system, we can see them right here on the left side of the Start menu. Be careful with the word apps because it can be kind of misleading. When talking about apps, you might think about Windows Store apps. With Windows 10, we're kind of getting away from the application versus app concept, although it is still valid. We're starting to call all the programs running on the system apps, even if they are traditional desktop apps. For example, when we view all apps, we see both Windows Store apps like alarms and clock, as well as traditional apps such as Acrobat Reader. You can see that the user interface used by a desktop app uses an interface that's very similar to that used by the Microsoft Store apps now. By default, we see the recently added apps here at the top of the list. My own preference, however, is to see the most used apps, which provides you with an easy way to start the apps that you use the most. To change this, we go down here and type Start Settings and click to open it. Then we can toggle off the Show Recently Added Apps and then toggle on the Show Most Used Apps here. If we go back to the Start menu, the most used apps are automatically added to a most used list here. For example, on this system, you can see that I've used the File Explorer, Control Panel, Microsoft Edge, and Maps. Now you're not stuck with just these. If you want to manually add an app to your Start menu, you can scroll down to View Apps, locate the app in question, such as Acrobat Reader, right-click it, and choose Pin to Start. Then a tile for that app is added down here to the Start menu. In addition, we have a link here for settings. Click it and it brings up your settings app. There's something that's significant with Windows 10. It is the fact that a lot of the features and functionality that we associate with Control Panel is slowly being migrated from Control Panel over here to the Settings app. You'll notice as you work with Windows 10 that there are some settings that used to be available in Control Panel that are no longer available in Control Panel at all. If you want to use them, you have to go to the Settings app. You'll also notice that there are many settings in Control Panel that are duplicated over here in the Settings app. Likewise, there are several settings that are available only in the Settings app. And of course, there's still some settings over here in the Control panel that are available only in Control panel. The Windows 10 desktop also includes our notification area over here. The look and feel of the notification area is slightly different, but the way it works is almost identical to the way it works in earlier versions of Windows. We also have our quick launch area down here on the taskbar, and we have the taskbar itself. Whenever we start an application, such as Acrobat Reader, an icon is automatically added to the taskbar. There is another feature of the Windows 10 user interface that is new in Windows 10. It's never been used in earlier versions of Windows, although it has been widely implemented in the Linux operating system, the graphical desktop used by Linux operating systems. It is the concept of virtual desktops. Right now, we're looking at the main Windows desktop. There's this icon right down here. We click it, it's called Task View. We can add virtual desktops to our system by clicking New Desktop up here. I can switch between desktops. For example, we could run Acrobat Reader on desktop 1 here. We can also switch to our new desktops as well. We can go to desktop 2, and I can run Microsoft Edge on this desktop. You can switch back and forth between them by clicking Task View. I can even add more desktops as well. I have 5 desktops. You can delete any of these virtual desktops by clicking the X that appears when you hover over each desktop, like shown here. Keep in mind that any apps that were opened in any of the closed virtual desktops will default back to your next available desktop. In Task View, we also see here below apps and web pages that have been used earlier. If you click one, it opens it up in the highlighted virtual desktop above. This feature makes it really nice and helps keep your desktop from being cluttered up with lots of running applications. The last thing we're going to look at in this demonstration is Cortana. Notice down here that there's a search field and it says type here to search. Cortana is a personal assistant. It's really like Siri on Apple iOS devices. There's 2 different ways that you can use Cortana. One way is to type things in the search field here you want Cortana to look for. For example, I can type test out in the search field. It will search not only local resources, but also resources out on the internet and help me find what it is I'm looking for. You can also use speech recognition to talk to Cortana. If you have a microphone set up on your system, you can use your voice to ask Cortana questions, and Cortana will go out on the internet and find the answers to what you're looking for. We can't do that in this demonstration because my voice is being recorded and is being piped away from the operating system itself, so there's no way to send voice commands to it, but I could if I wanted to. I want to show you, if you click Cortana here, there's a settings button here where you can customize how Cortana works. Now, right now, there are several different settings that you can configure. For example, you can configure the microphone, lock screen, language, permissions and history, and so on. One of the ways that Cortana works is that it gathers information based upon all the searches that you make. It stores that information in the cloud. That way, when you ask a particular question of Cortana, it takes a look at the stuff that you've looked up in the past and customizes the results based on what your preferences and interests are. You can manage this information using this right here. If I click the search bar, notice that I can customize my search as to what I'm looking for. For example, I can say I'm just looking for a particular app, or I'm looking for a particular document, or I'm just looking for something on the web. I can specify that here. That's it for this demonstration. In this demo, we talked about the Windows 10 user interface. We first looked at the Start menu, then we talked about virtual desktops. And we ended this demonstration by looking at Cortana.
All right. So really quick, we're going to go over desktops, start, and all the things they kind of just went over, but just to kind of follow it up. Desktop is a working surface that contains icons that access programs, files, applications, and file systems. The desktop is what is seen when all programs and open folders are minimized. Installing an application often adds an icon to the desktop. The start is the easiest way to access the most useful things on your computer. The list of programs, the start is divided into separate lines into 2 sections. Start can be customized for each user. The start's appearance is different with each Windows version. The start is found in Windows 7 and 10. So we started having that start key like we have right here in Windows 10 and 7, but it's a little bit different now. The taskbar contains icons that represent each program. Can be configured to display different types of toolbars. Notification area, that's what we have down here. Whenever you plug in a USB or plug in a new device or something, you're going to get a notification about it there. Let's see. Windows Explorer. So Windows Explorer is a graphical user interface for viewing and managing file systems. So you have that there. Control panel. Control panel is a compilation of various utilities that change how a computer looks and behaves. Use control panels to configure settings. Arrow. So this is a set of features imported. The visual appearance of Windows feature of Arrow include glass effects, window animation, when Windows open and close, Windows flip shows thumbnails. So this is kind of what they're talking about. They did not say Arrow, but they're talking about those different things you have now. Show desktop button. Yep. So Arrow is not available in Windows 7 Home Basic version. In addition, features depend on the graphics card and the system. For example, you might not be able to use Flip 3D if the graphic card does not have the necessary features. Search. So you use the search area to find different things within the web and on your computer. User account control. Feature that helps minimize the dangers of unwanted actions or unintended software installations. Differentiates between standard user privilege and administrator privileges. Features new to Windows 10. Customize the start. Yeah, you can now customize your start screen or your start shortcuts. Microsoft Store allows you to purchase music, video games, and apps. Cortana is kind of like their new Alexa or whatever. Microsoft Edge lets you write and highlight web pages. And the Edge web browser, this feature is hardware dependent. So yeah, Microsoft Edge is a new thing. It's kind of annoying. Sometimes it won't allow you to go and download Google Chrome. Does anyone have that experience? I've had some issue with trying to get Google Chrome because of Microsoft Edge. You got to go in and disable like Microsoft Edge basically and go download Google Chrome if you want Chrome on a newer laptop. Photos op organizes photos and videos in one location. Cloud storage provides integrated access to OneDrive. Continuum allows you to switch between PC, tablet, and photos. Feature hardware dependent. So a lot of the new things with anything, specifically Windows here, but cloud storage is obviously becoming a big deal. Not just having a USB drive or something locally you're storing it on, as well as having something that can work between your computer, your phone, your tablet, and things, having all that cross-platform availability. All right, so now you're going to go to your desk or your computer, excuse me, and take the 8-question quiz. You can keep taking it until you get the score you want. A passing score is 80% though, so make sure you get that. Because I'm going to go through and try to make sure that I can see that you have gone through all of these or, read them. For those of you in class, I did realize that I guess you're not really wanting to watch that again. The main thing is if you click on the video, it shows you watched it. So that's the main thing. So just make sure you're doing that. Like I said, do the 1.2.8 quiz, and we might move on and look at the 1.3.5 quiz, and we'll go and start looking at Linux basics in a little bit. Everyone did the questions here, right? The 1.2.8. If you didn't do those, just make sure you get that done. But we're going to move on to Linux here in a minute. So don't go ahead to your computers. Make sure you're going to a desk with white tape. That's the main thing. So, yeah. Yeah, you can come back. All right, everybody done with the quiz? Okay, cool. Let's move on. We will start going over the next section then. We'll just be a little bit ahead of the group that is online, or if you're following along, Adam or anyone watching this later, that's fine. We'll just keep moving. So Linux basics. So as you study this section, answer the following questions. Why do many administrators choose to use a command line interface on a Linux server? What is a Linux distribution? Which which common commands are used to navigate through shells? What types of items can tab be used to complete once you start typing the entry's name? What's the difference between free software and open source software? In this section, you will learn to use the shell commands to shut down a Linux system. So let's figure out how to do all those things. I'm not on mute, am I? That would really suck. Hello? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, cool. Because I was like, wow, I would just wasted all that time not being able to be heard at all. So, key terms, Linux, obviously, distribution shell, test out PC Pro. We're going to do some of these things, and we'll just keep going from there. All right, so let's go ahead and watch this video. It's only 7 minutes, so not too bad.
Let's spend a few minutes looking at the Linux operating system. Now, the introduction and adoption of Linux has been an interesting thing to observe in the IT industry. Way back when Linux was first introduced in the early 1990s, it pretty much went unnoticed. Professionals in the information technology industry were really focused on the big operating systems of the day, such as Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, Unix, and so on. And at the time, Linux was considered kind of an experimental thing, something you'd go play with in the lab, but never actually implement on a production system. Well, since that time, things have really changed. Linux has become a mainstay in the server room for many major organizations around the world. Using a variety of network services available for Linux, it can be configured to perform just about any networking role that any competing server operating system can perform. In addition to the server room, Linux has also started making inroads into the desktop market, in many cases replacing Microsoft Windows. Many Linux desktop applications are now available, most of them free of charge, I might add, that allow end users to perform their day-to-day work, such as word processing, database, spreadsheet, and presentation applications, and so on. In essence, Linux has evolved from an after-hours hobby for computer geeks to a major force for change in the information technology industry. And as such, there's a growing demand for network administrators to know how to implement, maintain, and support the Linux operating system. Now, if you ever had any experience with Linux, you know that it is a very different operating system than others that you may be familiar with, like Microsoft Windows. Therefore, working with Linux does require a degree of expertise. So with this in mind, let's talk about how Linux came to be. Linux was really something of an anomaly in the software development industry. As you probably know, most software products, whether we're talking about an application or an operating system, these products are developed as a part of a well-organized design and development effort within a single company. Well, Linux doesn't conform to this model. Instead, a graduate student at the University of Helsinki in Finland named Linus Torvalds developed his own clone of the Unix operating system way back in 1991, and he called it Linux. Now, this first version of Linux was very minimal in nature. It wasn't a full-blown operating system. It didn't have very many applications or utilities. But here's the key thing to understand. In a very unprecedented move, Linus Torvalds actually took the source code from his operating system, Linux, and actually posted it on the internet and made it available freely to anybody who wanted to download it. With that, the corporate software development model was kind of pushed aside. Now, Linus Torvalds even took things one step farther. He not only posted it on the internet, but he invited other people to go ahead and download it and modify it and see if they could make it better. When he did this, Linux took on a life of its own, and it became a worldwide collaborative effort. No secrecy, no copyrights, no patents. Access to the Linux source code was open to anybody who wanted to get their hands on it. Now, this collaborative development project on Linux continued for several years. In 1994, Linux version 1 was finally ready for release. So you might be asking, based upon how other companies develop software, why did Linus Torvalds give away Linux to anybody who wanted it? Why didn't he follow the standard corporate development model and try to make a lot of money? To understand this, you need to be familiar with the GNU's Not Unix movement, or GNU. We just call it GNU. In the early 1930s, there was a programmer named Richard Stallman at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and he proposed an alternative model to the standard corporate development model for software. He really didn't like the proprietary nature of the process and product. In 1983, Stallman launched the GNU project, and it was centered on the idea that the source code for applications and operating systems should be freely distributable to anybody who wants it. And he felt that by doing this, we could end up with much higher quality software. Now, software that's developed under GNU is frequently referred to as free software. A variation on the free software concept is called open source software. Now, Torvalds was influenced by the GNU project, and that's why he released the source code for the Linux operating system out to the world on the internet. Now, the Linux operating system itself is licensed under the GNU General Public License, or GPL. The key thing you need to remember about the GPL is the fact that it requires that the source code remain freely available to anybody who wants it. As a result, you can go out and download the Linux kernel source code if you want to, modify it, recompile it, and then run it. You can even create your own custom version of Linux. And this is called a distribution. Now, the concept of a distribution can be very confusing to those who are new to Linux. Perhaps the best way to think of a distribution is to compare Linux to ice cream. Now, ice cream comes in a wide variety of different flavors, but if you think about it, the basic formula for ice cream itself is pretty much the same. Most ice cream is made from cream or milk, sugar, and eggs. Now, companies that sell ice cream will take this basic ice cream recipe and tweak it, and they'll customize it. And they do this by changing the proportions. They'll change it by adding additional ingredients, maybe chocolate, vanilla, fruit, cookies, nuts, candy, whatever it is they want to add. And by doing this, they create their own flavor of ice cream. Well, really, Linux distributions work in much the same way. The kernel source code is comparable to the basic recipe for ice cream. Now, because the Linux kernel source code, which is the core of the operating system around which everything else runs, because it's freely distributable, software vendors are actually free to go ahead and download it. And just like ice cream companies will add additional ingredients to the basic ice cream recipe, software vendors can then modify and enhance the Linux kernel source code and create their own customized Linux kernel. And then they can also add a whole bunch of specialized tools and utilities and applications to the operating system to enhance its usefulness. This is known as a Linux distribution. You may already be aware that there are many different Linux distributions available. Software developers around the world have taken the basic Linux kernel and modified it to suit many different purposes. They may have also bundled some very powerful applications with it. Some distributions may be customized to provide high-end network services to remote end users. Others may be customized to provide excellent productivity applications on the end user desktop. Either way, the result is a customized Linux distribution. And today, there are literally hundreds of different Linux distributions available. Some of the more popular Linux distributions include OpenSUSE, Fedora, and Ubuntu. So which one is best? Well, that's a dangerous question because pacifist system administrators or programmers can sometimes come to blow while debating which distribution is best. That's because the distribution that works best for you may not meet the needs of somebody else at all. The key is to go and try out several different distributions and pick out the one that you like the best. So in a nutshell, that's what Linux is and how it came to be. In this lesson, we talked about the components that make up the Linux operating system. We talked about the historical development of Linux, and we talked about the concept of a distribution.
All right. No. That's another video, really? Oh gosh. Y'all want to save the 14-minute video for tomorrow? Yeah. Okay, so we got that video to watch basically. Then we've got, what's this? Okay, we got some labs. So it won't be bad. We can just do 2 labs tomorrow with that. How's that work? Okay, so we can start off with that video. Then we'll do the 2 labs, and we'll do the practice questions possibly. Okay, the only problem is it's only 12:30. This is hard to judge this class because I feel like we go over a lot of stuff very fast. I don't want to like overload y'all. Let's think about this. How about all right, I'm gonna have something else for y'all to do instead of continuing going, because I don't want to get too far ahead of online. So what we're gonna do in class, and this is just to have a little interesting activity, and so I can check off some boxes for something. We're gonna do a thinking map. Oh crap, I still haven't hung my thinking maps. Probably need to get on that. All right, so we're gonna do a thinking map. I'm gonna end the Zoom meeting because I think we're basically done for the day. So you don't have to worry about that. So Adam, you're done for the day.